About legalizing marijuana.
Woo!
As you all know, marijuana is obviously a plant. It's been around a lot longer than we have, and it's been used medicinally pretty much since humans figured out how to smoke stuff. And yet, despite that, it's been illegal for the better part of the past century. My question for tonight is, should it be? And my answer is, based on the plethora of benefits it can provide to society, as well as all the falsehoods that it was made illegal based on, absolutely no, it should not be still illegal. I think we should reevaluate our stance on marijuana prohibition and look for a new alternative. So how exactly could legalizing weed benefit society? Well, first of all, it would be a huge boost for the economy. It would be a huge aid to public health and medicine. It would keep marijuana out of the hands of kids who are way too young to have that stuff. And it would protect the freedoms that us as Americans hold so dearly. So how would it help the economy? Well, one way is through taxes. Some places that have already legalized medical marijuana have placed taxes on it, including the city of San Jose, who has a 10% tax on medical marijuana, and because of that, brings in $5.4 million annually. The state of Washington, one of two states that recently legalized marijuana, is expected to bring in $1.9 billion in the next 5 years based on taxes alone. And we would not only make more money, we would save a lot of it too. For example, prohibition costs our government $13.7 billion annually, and it costs taxpayers another $41.8 billion every year. Plus, it costs us another $1 billion a year just to incarcerate non-violent marijuana inmates. And legalizing weed would lower the unemployment rate because it creates jobs in grow shops and dispensaries, which is a benefit that both Washington and Colorado are already experiencing. Add it all up, and economist Stephen Easton claims that legalized marijuana could be anywhere between a $45 and $110 billion industry. So I think those numbers kind of speak for themselves and how it would boost the economy. But how exactly would it help public health? Well, I'm sure this doesn't surprise any of you guys, but alcohol is currently the most popular recreational drug in the nation. And along with that, it's also the most dangerous. So the question with that is, in places where weed is legal, does it become a substitute for alcohol, or is it more of a complement? In other words, do people replace alcohol with weed, or they just do both? Well, in places where it's illegal, it's pretty common for it to be a complement, but studies have shown that in places where it's legalized, it actually becomes a substitute, meaning people start to prefer smoking weed instead of drinking alcohol, which is good, because a recent study published in the Journal of School Health showed that alcohol is the actual gateway drug, not marijuana. And that's just simply because of alcohol's social acceptability. You know, it's the only legal recreational drug there is, pretty much. But marijuana always appeared to be the gateway drug because, since it's illegal, it's not uncommon for it to be sold by some drug dealers right alongside a lot harder drugs that are very dangerous. And it also going along with that, the stats for pot smoking drops off sharply at the age of 21 in places where weed is illegal, meaning that as soon as people are able to drink, they turn to alcohol, which isn't really that much of a surprise. But researchers conducting ongoing studies in Colorado and Washington are expecting alcohol use to decline sharply, along with marijuana use climbing intensely over the next few years. Furthermore, it would aid public health in that it would be a lot harder for kids to access. Most recent polls showed that teens report it being way easier for them to get their hands on marijuana than either alcohol or cigarettes. And that's pretty much because drug dealers don't really care who they're selling to, as long as they're making money. Whereas if it were legalized, you would need an ID, just like alcohol or cigarettes. So how does legalizing weed, how would that protect our freedoms as Americans? Well, the thing is, smoking weed, like anything that would cause harm to one's own body, is a product of free will. Take obesity, for instance. It's a national epidemic, and yet the government has no right to limit how much we eat, and they don't. The thing is, if you aren't smoking weed, then you're not being harmed by it. But what if you are smoking weed? I'm sure some of you are thinking, wouldn't that mean that you're causing brain damage and stuff like that?
No.
Well, as was revealed in a documentary called The Union, they showed that the study that originated the rumor that marijuana would cause brain damage was actually conducted on monkeys. And what they did, they placed gas masks like over their face and they just pumped them full of like incredibly unrealistic amounts of marijuana smoke, like more than anybody could ever smoke in real life. I'd love to see them try, but it's not going to happen. And so what was definitely happening is they were definitely having brain damage based on a lack of oxygen, not because they were getting really, really high. So to be fair, A study in the British Journal of Pharmacology later showed that THC, the main psychoactive chemical in marijuana, does cause damage to the memory center of the brain, but CBD, the secondary active chemical in marijuana, causes endogenesis and can fix it. So, for instance, if you smoke weed for a week and then take a break for 2 weeks, CBD will remain in your system and actively repair the damage that was caused. It's all about moderation. Yet, despite this, many in opposition to legalizing marijuana do say that high drivers would be a big issue, possibly worse than drunk drivers. Yet, a recent study that was published in Accident Analysis and Prevention says that pretty much every other substance in existence, including over-the-counter painkillers, is more dangerous to driving than marijuana. So in other words, you're more likely to get in an accident after taking aspirin than you are after smoking a joint. In closing, marijuana is one of the safest psychoactive substances known to man. And honestly, I think we should have the right to decide whether or not we want to use it. A few years ago, Prop 19 was on the ballot, and although it narrowly lost, it's coming back again either next year or in 2016. And whenever it does, I urge you all to vote yes, whether or not you smoke it, just because it can help society as a whole. In the meantime, I urge you all to visit normal.org, NORML, that's the National Organization for the Reform of Marijuana Laws, where you can stay up to date on current issues revolving around marijuana across the nation, as well as you can send emails to congressmen urging them to fight for legalization. The emails are already pre-typed out. You can customize them if you want, but the website makes it really, really easy to get involved in politics. Thank you for your time. Thanks, guys.
Hey, Zach, it wasn't 8 minutes, though.
That's okay. How long was it?